Hi everyone, my name is Stef and I'm here to tell about data protection. Data protection is quite important, not just for privacy and protecting users, but also to protect your own data. We have customers on our platform that stream live surgeries and upload job interviews, and all that media can contain very private sensitive data. It's not just the media that can contain sensitive or private data, it's also in the logs, and that's something you cannot prevent from clouds and service providers from generating. That data can contain, or probably will contain, user-sensitive data and personal data. For instance, logs contain IP addresses. And you don't want third parties to know who viewed your content, because there are IP addresses in there, and according to the European GDPR law, you are not allowed to share the data with anyone else, especially not either side of the European zone. But it's not just privacy and personal data that's in there. Imagine that you are a broadcaster or a publisher, or you have a video platform, and in your data the most popular titles are in there, your format, your programming, your advertisers, your audience, where they are, all the data is in your logs, and you don't want that data to be exposed to third parties. So it's not just about privacy, it's also about protecting your own interests. Imagine who can also access that data. Let's say you work with a streaming video vendor. That could be a US vendor, or they use a US cloud, and probably they use multiple US clouds and CDNs. They also use video tracking and performance tracking data for analytics and performance analytics. So suddenly you have 5 or 6 companies accessing your data and your logs. And if one of them leaks the data, or sells the data, or shares the data, you have a big issue, and you want to protect that data. So it's not just about the law, and not just about protecting your users, it's also about protecting your own data. It's fairly important. And fortunately, a lot of more organizations are now understanding this, and that they have to check this and protect this. And that's why we built JetStream Cloud. JetStream Cloud is European owned, European infrastructure, and everything is happening within the secure cloud. So the storage of your media, the recording of your streams, the live streams, the streaming itself, the logging, the analytics, everything is done within the cloud. Even the transcoding is done within the same cloud. So there is no third party having access to your data. We have zero ties with US vendors for this. So there is no other vendor accessing the data, and especially not US vendors. And I'm talking about US vendors because there is a challenge. And the challenge is called the US Cloud Act, which is a law that demands access to any data within reach of American companies, even if the data is on European soil, even if the data is within a European subsidiary, even if you have standard contractual clauses protecting data sharing, even when you try to do encryption. The problem is that logs are stored and generated, and you don't encrypt them, you don't upload them yourself, so you cannot encrypt what's happening over there. So that's why we will JetStream Cloud, to keep the data out of reach. And maybe you think, okay, it's not a big issue, it won't happen to me. Last summer, in Germany, a public tender was cancelled because of the winner that wanted to use a US cloud. Even though the data was in Europe, even though there was a European subsidiary, and they had standard contractual clauses in place. According to the responsible authority, they said there is not enough guarantee that data is safe, so you cannot use US clouds. This has huge impact on tenders, especially for public broadcasters. You have to comply to the European law, so in your tender you have to talk about GDPR compliancy. And it basically excludes the use of American services, which is quite heavy. You cannot use American video platforms, video players, analytic services, clouds, or CDNs anymore for those services. You have to do it in Europe. And there is an alternative, it's JetStream Cloud. Basically that's the only alternative there. A few weeks ago, the Dutch authority, the cybersecurity authority, also issued a memo also explaining the same issue. You cannot trust data on US owned infrastructures, even if it's in Europe. So please prevent this. it's again also in your own interest to do this, because you could be competed with your own data, or you could be having claims from users saying you're not protecting my data. I want you to protect that data. Recently, we were audited by the EDPS, the European Data Protection Supervisor. That's the authority in Europe which is responsible for supervising data protection within the European Union. And they wanted to produce a live stream for a live event. They had a multiple day live event with over 100 speakers on data protection. And the data protection event was, of course, to be streamed live on the internet. And they needed to do this on a platform that actually could do this in a secure and private way. And we were audited, and we were audited for 100% GDPR compliancy. And as far as I know, we are the only platform that can stick to this. So again, if you are a broadcaster or a publisher and you have to comply to the European laws, you are, if you're European, then please come over to Jetstream and talk to us about data protection, how we secure your interests and that of your audience. Thank you so much. Bye bye.